Hurricanes are a huge topic, especially right now with Florida being devastated by Tropical Storm Ian that just made landfall recently on September 28th. That Cat 4 storm left more than 2 million people across Florida without power. Some were trapped in flooded homes. Bridges have been destroyed and completely washed away.
We personally have friends whose homes are completely gone, washed away, including their vehicles. Other friends have zero power, no gas, no cell service. The news is saying that this might be the deadliest hurricane that Florida has ever seen. It's just so sad to see happening so close to home.
With that said, we live in the Gulf Coast, so you can imagine all of us lower Alabamians were paying extra close attention to Tropical Storm Ian's path and praying we weren't being threatened by that hurricane. It's almost impossible to predict, but we always say be prepared for anything. Any shift east or west, even a small one, will alter its impact on us.
Yeah, and a couple years ago in 2020, Hurricane Sally made a landfall in Gulf Shores and all of coastal Alabama. It was supposed to hit west of us, and then it turned sharply east just 24 hours before landfall, and it hit us dead on. If we didn't have an emergency hurricane kit, it really would have been a bad day.
Yeah, Sally unexpectedly re-intensified and hit a Cat 2 status before making landfall near Gulf Shores on September 16th. Of 2020. A lot of people weren't expecting it. The storm battered us with more rain than we've ever seen. The wind was so strong and destructive, it legit felt like our house was gonna collapse.
We lost power for an entire week. We just stare out the window and think, when will this rain really let up? When the surge hit, it was like a scene from the movie The Day After Tomorrow. We watched the streets disappear and flood with water. Limbs were down all over everyone's properties. Shingles were torn off of roofs. You couldn't even leave your house because the streets were so bad, and it was just dangerous to drive in these conditions, or in those conditions.
Yeah, and all we could do is just like hunker down and wait it out. Eventually Sally weakened after it made landfall, but it still lasted another day, and then it finally moved off the coast and was absorbed into like another extratropical storm a few days later.
So if you're wondering if hurricanes hit Alabama, the answer is yes. Hurricane season runs from June 1st through November 30th each year, with September being its peak. Statistics show that 2 hurricanes hit coastal Alabama on average every decade. Sally produced a widespread wind, storm surges, and fresh water flooding across coastal Alabama and the western Florida panhandle.
Yeah, and flood and wind damage also extended well inland into inland southwest Alabama and south central Alabama. Sally was an extremely slow-moving hurricane which prolonged and exacerbated the local impact. The storm was moving at less than 5 miles per hour at the time of landfall, which resulted in a long duration of a tropical storm and hurricane-force winds, storm surge, and that torrential downfall.
We know people who lived on Fish River in Fairhope. Their home was destroyed. Ceilings were caved in, ankle deep in water. Home had to be pretty much gutted down to the studs, all from wind and rain. It took 6 months to get back into their house just to even start looking at damage.
Right. The recent hurricane hit Fort Myers, Florida, which is 600 miles away from Gulf Shores. We experienced a windy day, and the water temporarily has been sucked out of Mobile Bay, leaving large, unsightly mudflats. Eventually, the water will make its way back into the bay. But overall, it was a sunny, nice day here. For us to be majorly impacted by a hurricane, it pretty much needs to hit us dead on.
It's hard to comprehend how bad Florida is struggling right now. Just across the Gulf of Mexico, Hurricane Sally over here was a 24-hour long Category 2 and was so destructive to the area, it's terrifying to even imagine a Category 4.
Living directly on the Gulf Coast, close to the water, is where you'll experience it the worst. Towns in Baldwin County and close to Mobile Bay will experience heavy rain, flooding, and severe winds.
So be prepared. If you're planning to move to coastal Alabama, hurricanes are a part of life sometimes. Have a hurricane survival kit ready to go. We keep a closet stocked with waters, batteries, non-perishable food items, lots of towels, flashlights, first aid kit, you name it, walkie-talkies.
And a whole bunch of other stuff like games, candles, portable fans, butane. We stay ready in this house. To be honest, not a lot of locals get very concerned during hurricane season. This is just something that they've lived with forever. And a lot of times the storms aren't as severe as the forecast actually predicts.
But after your home has been hit by a severe hurricane, the recovery process can be very extensive. From returning home from an evacuation and assessing the rebuild, from the damages that it has, the American Red Cross always steps up with a plan for relief in case you're without food or power or water, things like that.
Yeah, the destructive power of a storm surge and large bearing waves has resulted in loss of life, buildings destroyed, beach and dune erosion, road and bridge damage along the coast. A storm surge can travel several miles inland, so it's definitely something to be taken seriously.
But the last one in 2020, FEMA did not come, so be prepared for not always have someone to have your back right away.
All right, thanks for watching this video. If you like what you see, hit that like and subscribe button and check out all of our other Alabama videos. We'll see y'all next time.
See ya.